Our next standard is NS1.7B Interest. Make sure you write that as the title of your notes on the next page in your notebook. Make sure you're starting on a fresh, blank, beautiful new page of your notebook. Let's go ahead and write down the definition of interest. I'll give you some examples of interest after we write it down. So interest is defined as the amount of money paid for the use of borrowed money. And I'm going to make sure and underline borrowed because that's the important word. I'm going to keep talking as you're writing. So, amount of money paid for the use of borrowed money is our definition of interest. So, an example of this is that if you buy something with a credit card, you're not actually using your own money. You're saying you're going to pay it back later. Now, that is a service given by the credit card, so you're borrowing money from the credit card company. So, the money that you borrow, you eventually have to pay back. And if you don't pay it back in time, you have to pay interest. We've got two more vocabulary words before we start. Principal, which we refer to with the variable P, is the original amount of money borrowed. So just like on that credit card, if you borrow $400 to go buy a new Xbox, that's the original amount, the principal, the $400. Our last definition before we get started is interest rate, and we represent interest rate with the R for rate, and that's the percentage involved. So the interest rate is the percentage that we use to talk about how much money you're going to owe in interest. Now we're ready for the formula. The formula to find simple interest is interest equals the principal times the rate times the amount of time it takes in years for you to pay. So when we're doing interest problems and you're trying to find the interest, you're going to think about PRT, principal times rate times time. Okay, here's our word problem. So write down example, underline it, put a colon, and then copy down my problem. Maria borrowed $200 at 12% simple interest for 1 year. If she makes no payments that year, how much interest will she owe at the end of the year? Feel free to pause it here so that you have time to write down the problem in your notes.